story in Buckhead. So I gave
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot about Ted
yeah.
Turner.
Anyway, so we'll do that. But all right, Stephen, you're here to talk politics. I'm so sorry. Poll numbers are coming in fast and furious. Which polls do you want to start with, my friend, and what are your reactions to them?
Yeah, obviously, we've had a lot of polling from the AJC. Obviously, Mark, you've had Greg Bluestein on your show to kind of run through these. But I think the biggest takeaway is that there's a lot of undecided voters. And so if you are one of those voters who is making up your mind, make sure to get educated about these races because they're really close and they're really tight. Obviously, in the U.S. Senate race we've talked about on this show, we've got Mike Collins, Buddy Carter, Derek Dooley in that order in the latest polling.
But undecided still has more than 50% of the vote,
yes,
which is crazy. And was one of the things I asked Eric was, can Dooley get to that number 2 position into the runoff? And within the margin of error, it's still a possibility.
It is a possibility. Obviously, we know Governor Kemp is backing Derek Dooley's campaign. Mike Collins has been in the lead, but again, it's been a fluid situation for second place. And so certainly a possibility for Derek Dooley to get in the race, getting into that runoff there. On the Republican governor side, a tight one between Rick Jackson and Burt Jones. This is going to be a photo finish. I think it's going to be a really close race in terms of 1-2, almost certain to head to a runoff in what will be a very bruising runoff campaign.
Unless something huge pops, it's going to be a runoff. When they get to the runoff, are the gloves going to come off even more when it's just them two, or is it just going to be what we've been seeing up until the runoff?
Yeah, I think the gloves will be off. I think you'll see it just escalate to another level, fighting for every single last vote in that runoff situation, in which we know a smaller electorate of really only the really consistent, traditional conservative base of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, if there's a runoff in there.
Real quick, what I think happened in Indiana yesterday, and if you haven't been following the news, Indiana state senators, Republicans, declined to redistrict, right, and to gerrymander, and that ticked off President Trump to no end. So he went in and supported any candidate that was running against the state senator in Indiana, and I believe 6 of the 7 people that President Trump supported won yesterday in Indiana. This is not Democrat, Republican. This is a Republican versus Republican. If I'm Burt Jones, I'm like, okay, that Trump endorsement still matters a lot. That had to be good news for the Burt Jones campaign.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good news, a good sign, omen for them. You mentioned 6 of the 8. There's still one outstanding race, but a complete domination by the Trump campaign and the Trump operation in that state. I think it shows the power still that the president's endorsement, his operation, his movement has.
I was questioning. I'm not going to lie. I was questioning it, because I'm seeing he has, Burt Jones has the endorsement of President Trump. Why is it so close in Georgia? But what we saw in Indiana is oh, okay, it's still a powerful thing to have that on your lapel.
It is. And a couple of things that are a little different. Georgia's not Indiana. So that's one thing. We voted.
Lord.
Yeah, right. For a lot of reasons, right? But Republicans in this state have a little bit more of an independent streak.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they don't support Donald Trump in droves in the Republican Party. We know that to be a fact. But they're a little more open-minded to who their candidate is. You have Rick Jackson, who's somewhat benefiting from that, I think. He's saying a lot of pro-Trump things, but he's not endorsed and is kind of running his own campaign. I think that's why you're seeing that difference. It's going to be interesting to see in a runoff situation, who is able to really carry that mantle forward and cash in on that endorsement.
Political analyst Stephen Lawson in studio. Any other poll numbers that jump out to you in any of the races here?
Yeah, can Keisha Lance Bottoms win without a runoff in the Democrat primary for governor? I think it's a 50-50 shot at this point. There are just all of those other candidates in terms of Thurman, Estevez, Jeff Duncan. They are just not gaining any traction, and they're running the real risk of that not going to overtime and Keisha Lance Bottoms being the nominee.
I'm seeing her start to spend some money on TV now too. I see a couple of TV ads popping up.
And why that's happening is because I think her campaign sees the finish line. They can see the possibility of her winning without a runoff, and I think they're starting to push some chips to the middle of the table.
Interesting. Have we seen any? I follow most of the candidates on social media, so I'll see endorsements pop up. Thurman's starting to get some endorsements. Estevez had a pretty big endorsement yesterday. But are we waiting for national endorsements, or is John Ossoff? He's waiting till after this election before he, gets on the Keisha Lance Bottoms bandwagon? Are the big Democratic power brokers just like waiting in the wings right now to see what happens here?
Well, you did have Joe Biden come out and endorse Keisha Lance Bottoms.
Which, is that helpful or hurtful?
Well, yeah, to be determined. I think it's probably not a net negative in a Democrat primary at this point. But to be seen if that's a hindrance or a help in a general election. But yeah, I think she's running away with it, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I think if she's able to win without a runoff, she's again, Mark, going to get a month of untouched airtime while the Republicans fight it out. I think that could be to her benefit potentially.
Finally, and Eric Erickson mentioned this, I was not aware, the Supreme Court vote. There's no runoff there. If you don't vote early, you don't get to vote for the Supreme Court of the state of Georgia, which means turnout in these primaries. I know early voting's going on. You're not going to get a second chance in May to vote for the judges. You got to do that now.
You do it now. Go all the way to the end of your ballot. Some of these ballots, Mark, are very long in some of these counties across Metro Atlanta, but really across the state. So you got to make sure you go all the way to the end of the ballot to do that. Yeah, because there's no overtime on those judicial races. So they're going to be really, really important.
Dentons.com for all things Stephen Lawson.